The government's paid parental leave scheme is in place. The Greens have had theirs costed by the Parliamentary Budget Office twice now, but the Coalition's costings for its paid parental leave scheme are still under wraps. Today the Coalition was asked about the decision not to provide a franking credit for shareholders getting a dividend from those 3,000 biggest companies that will pay a 1.5% levy under the Coalition's scheme. The Opposition's defended the decision, saying it will deliver shareholders bigger dividends because it will grow the economy, despite not offering a franking credit, which is a tax offset for shareholders designed to avoid double taxation. The government says that decision is a $1.6 billion hit to investors. I spoke to the Shadow Assistant Treasurer, Matthias Cormann, a little earlier. Matthias Cormann, welcome to ABC News 24.
Good to be here.
Now, isn't your levy, your paid parental leave levy, a tax on company profits, and isn't that something that normally attracts a franking credit for investors?
Our paid parental leave levy is a good policy for families. It's a good policy for the economy. It is part of our plan to grow our economy more strongly and to create more jobs. It's of course an important policy to boost population growth, to boost productivity growth, to boost workforce participation by women, and as such it will help us grow our economy more strongly.
And is it a levy on company profits?
Well, you've got to look at our policies in their totality. Our overall economic plan involves scrapping the carbon tax, which will bring down the cost of doing business, which will bring down the cost of living. It involves scrapping the mining tax. It involves a 1.5% company tax cut. We've been transparent right from the word go that there is a 1.5% levy on Australia's 3,000 largest companies, which will help us fund what is a very important economic reform for Australia.
And isn't that levy on company profits, and doesn't that usually attract a franking credit for investors?
Well, what we've done is that we are actually implementing a 1.5% company tax cut. If you cut the company tax...
And a 1.5% levy.
Well, obviously, if you reduce company tax, you reduce the level of deduction. But if I might just say, in relation to this, what is important to investors across Australia, what is important to shareholders across Australia, is to have the economy grow more strongly, because stronger economic growth means bigger profits, means bigger dividends. I mean, the Labor Party seems to be out there arguing today that higher taxes are better for investors because it gives them a higher tax deduction at the other end. What we are arguing is that we should have lower taxes overall, stronger economic growth, bigger profits, and bigger, more sustainable dividends. That's what ultimately is good for self-funded retirees and for all investors across Australia.
I'll ask the question one more time. Isn't the levy a tax on company profits, and isn't a tax on company profits something that normally attracts a franking credit for those shareholders who get dividends from that?
Well, no. What our policy is that we've got a 28.5% company tax because we've reduced company tax by 1.5% across the board, and for one company out of every 200, there is a 1.5% paid parental leave levy. Now, the franking credit applies in relation to the company tax. It does not apply in relation to the paid parental leave levy. That is not news. That is something that the Labor Party has been attacking us over and talking about since March 2010. It's been widely reported for the past 3 years. It seems that Chris Bowen and Penny Wong have only just woken up to this, I suspect for political reasons.
What's the difference between a levy and a tax, apart from spelling?
Well, I mean, essentially what we've said very clearly is that we've got a 28.5% company tax, which attracts the franking credit, and of course nearly 750,000 companies, 747,000 companies or thereabouts, paying company tax, will benefit from a 1.5% company tax. Now, if you lower the company tax rate, obviously you lower the related tax deduction.
I'll ask the question again. What is the difference between a levy and a tax, apart from spelling?
Well, because we have structured the paid parental leave levy as a 1.5% levy that specifically applies to taxable income above $5 million a year. That is structured in that particular way, in a very transparent fashion. There is nothing new here.
Did you then structure it this very way to give a 1.5% company tax cut and then put a 1.5% levy on the 3,000 biggest businesses to avoid having to pay the franking credit?
Well, no, there's nothing. This has got nothing to do with avoiding this, that, or whatever. This is about delivering a 28.5% company tax rate for 750,000 companies across Australia. And of course, just 3,000 companies across Australia will pay the 1.5% paid parental leave levy. This is part of a plan to grow our economy more strongly. Growing the economy more strongly is good for jobs and it is good for shareholder returns.
How much money do you save by not paying the franking credit?
Well, I mean, you know that the cost of our paid parental leave scheme over the forward estimates is the additional cost after we scrap Labor's current inferior scheme is $6.1 billion. That's the cost that we've released with our policy. And you know that in good time before the next election, in good time before the election on September 7, we will be releasing all of the details in relation to all of our costings and all of the savings measures that we're pursuing. And people will be able to see that the budget bottom line will be better off under the coalition than under Labor.
The Greens had their paid parental leave scheme costed by the Parliamentary Business Office. They propose exactly the same levy as you do on companies, and the PBO costed that at $3.4 billion in the first year and $4 billion in the second. Is that your figures?
Well, I mean, the Greens haven't submitted quite the same policy as ours. There's some similarities, but there's some differences.
On the 1.5% levy on the biggest businesses is exactly the same as yours, isn't it?
We will be releasing all of our costings in relation to all of our policies and all of the savings measures that we are proposing to offset the cost of our policies in good time before the next election. People will be able to review all of the detail, and what people will be able to say is the budget will be better off. Well,
you know the figure now, don't you?
We are going through an orderly process, which is quite appropriate, where we're releasing policies, and unlike the Labor Party, we are actually telling people how much our policies are costing. You know the figure.
Well, you know how much that 1.5% levy on companies will raise now, don't you?
Obviously, we have fully costed this paid parental leave policy through the Parliamentary Budget Office.
So why can't people know? Why isn't it hard to say it's $4 billion in the second year?
We are going through orderly process in the normal course of this campaign, and once we've released all of our policies, and I say again, every one of our policies has got the cost of that policy attached to it as we announce it. Kevin Rudd is out there in his chaotic campaign making promises on the Never Never, like in the Northern Territory, promising 3 different company tax cuts to the Northern Territory in the same press conference. No costing, no funding, no detail whatsoever. So I mean, what we're doing is way more transparent. We are going through a proper, orderly process, and in good time before the election, people will be able to check it all out, and they'll be able to form their judgments.
Will that, in good time before the election, be before the election advertising blackout kicks in?
It'll be way sooner than the Labor Party released their costings.
Will it be before the election advertising blackout kicks in?
I'm not going to announce here today the specific date on which we release our policy costings and the value of our savings measures. But what I can say to you is that we will be releasing the full list of the cost of all of our policies and the value of all of our savings way earlier than the Labor Party released theirs before the last election. And I suspect they would release them in this election, because the Labor Party hasn't released their costings, as much as they're hypocritically jumping up and down at us. Labor is the party that has made a complete mess of the budget in the first place. So we don't have any lectures to take from the Labor Party.
Last election, you released them on the Wednesday night before election day. Will it be sooner than that?
Well, look, I mean, you can try to ask me that question in however many ways you like. I'm not going to be in a position here today to give you the specific date on which we will be releasing our costings. But what I can say to you is that over the course of this campaign, we will continue to release policy. And once we have gone through that process in a proper way, there will come a time, in good time before the election, where we will release the full list of all of our policies and their cost, the full list of all of our savings measures and their value, and people will see that the net impact on the budget bottom line is going to be positive under the coalition compared to Labor.
Matthias Cormann, thank you very much for your time.
Always good to be here.